Welcome to Alcohol and Anime Night. My name is Scott, and tonight we're going to be checking out a Watch This, Not That type segment featuring Kaiju No. 8 and Kamiwa Gemu ni Uteru. I'm also going to be going through my experience at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to Alcohol and Anime Night. My name is Scott, and as always, this is the show that gets you drunker, the show that gets you fatter, and the show that gives you awesome consumer advice most of the time. I'm checking out the Leinenkugel Summer Shandy. This is one that we've had on the channel a couple of times. One of my favorites. It's properly summer here, so come by. So I wanted to do something that was a little different than our normal segment, and I wanted to do a Watch This, Not That style segment. These are two series that are both running in 2024, and if you're like me, your time is pretty valuable and you don't want to waste a bunch of episodes on something that's not really that good. And I wanted to save you guys a little bit of time. The first one I wanted to go over is one called Kamiwa Gemu ni Uteru, or The Gods Games We Play. And I talked about this one initially in the series that I was looking forward to in 2024. If you want to check that out, I think the video's over there somewhere or over here, however I do it. And it did look pretty cool. It had a very no game, no life feel, and you're not going to get away from that. That's definitely going to be a strong comparison in this one. The essential idea is that these gods, they have, they'll grant essentially a magic wish to anybody who can defeat them in like 10 games in a row, and nobody's ever done it, and it seems honestly like ridiculous that anybody be able to do it because of the setup, which I'll get to in a little bit. Basically, our main character is kind of the man. He's like the coolest guy who's ever joined these games. Doesn't really explain too much why. It doesn't seem like he's that much better, but he has like won a couple, and basically they kind of pair him up with this other dragon god who is not one of the gods in the game that she actually wants to go play the games. So she's kind of like a Hestia or an Aqua type character. So she's like a god, she has some powers, but she just really wants to play the games and she loves the games. And then they basically get thrown into building these teams and playing these games. Now, what this doesn't do right is the games are just too damn complicated, and you don't learn about some of the rules of the game until like halfway through them. That's how some of these work. They don't explain the rules to you. And any of you guys who have played like the old Nintendo games back in the 80s, that's basically how that works. They gave you the cartridge and like, figure out how to play. They didn't tell you any of the moves or what the objectives were. You just played and then hope you figure it out. And that's kind of the way these games are. Only as a viewer, it's just not very satisfying because you're like, well, I can't really know what they should or should not be doing. And so you kind of discover it as you're watching, and it's just not really that cool. There are some ecchi elements, you know, there's a bunch of boob jokes and stuff like that, you know, some light nudity maybe, but honestly, sometimes that can cover up for a bad show, and this doesn't. It's just not enough. So you could tell they really tried. Even the tones of the colors when they enter the god game world gets down to like these kind of almost pastels, these purplish pastels, which again feels very much like No Game, No Life, but it's just not really that good. And so I really can't recommend it. I got to about episode 7 and I couldn't stick with it anymore. So if you're a fan of the light novel, definitely give it a go, but otherwise I don't think I can recommend it. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience at Phoenix Fan Fusion. I did work on the parties again this year. I worked on the first and second night. The first night was like an 80s party, kind of 80s, 90s party. It's sad that those kind of things can be combined now. And then the second night was kind of a futuristic type thing. So it was really fun. It was a big blast. If you saw any of my shorts, just even by like 7:30, almost 8 o'clock, it was just, room was filled, which is just unheard of. If you run club events or party events, getting people into a space before 8 o'clock is very difficult, and I was really surprised what kind of attendance we were able to get. We had some cool contests, gave away some amazing prizes. McFarlane donated a whole bunch of amazing toys, so we had some awesome figures. Some of them had those comic books included, which I love. So a lot of really cool prizes. It was a big upgrade from last year. Basically what happened is I pulled a whole bunch of people on stage that I thought had awesome costumes, and I kind of led them to believe that there was going to be some type of contest. And I just gave them all prizes because honestly, everybody's costumes were awesome. On night 2, I wanted to focus on some of the cyberpunk costumes I saw, so brought a bunch of people up. There was a ton of people with cyberpunk costumes. There was a Lucy, there was a David, there was a Rebecca. It was awesome. So I even saw a Johnny Silverhand there, but I think he left before the contest. So brought everybody up there and gave them all prizes too. So it was great. The Phoenix Fan Fusion staff is great as always. They had an awesome arcade setup on the back side of the room that we were in, which was the reactor room 120. And so right outside of that, there was all of these arcade games that they had tournaments in. And in the room next door, there was board games. Obviously, the vendor hall was awesome. I didn't get to the vendor hall till day 3, which is when I actually got to go and walk around. I was exhausted after 2 nights of parties, but I still wanted to walk around with my family and bought some stuff. I bought a blind bag. Now, I love a mystery bag. I love I love chasing the thrill of it. So me and another member of my family bought a mystery bag, and theirs was $20. It was awesome. It had like 2 pairs of socks that were character about, and there was like a plushie that was exactly what the person wanted. $20. It was awesome. So I got mine, and I was like, I'm gonna spend a little bit more. So I think maybe I might get a little bit more. So I went around, and there was an RE0 one. I love RE0, as you might know if you've seen my car. So I was like, all right, maybe there'll be like a figure or something in that. Yeah, all right, it was $35. Got it. I was so disappointed. It was basically a little keychain that was probably worth 50 cents and a Rem plushie. Now the Rem plushie is cool and everything, it's just I'm not a plushie guy, so it really has like no value for me. I know I say I'm not a plushie guy and I have this Pochita here, but this Pochita is awesome. I got that last year in a mystery bag, by the way, so I got burned in the mystery bag, but hey, you know what? I'm always chasing the thrill. So if you guys have a chance to go out to Phoenix Fan Fusion next time, definitely check it out. I had a blast, and I was so exhausted by the end, but I'm always happy to be there and help out whenever I can. So back to the Watch This Not That. I think it might be obvious at this point, but Kaiju number 8 was a hugely anticipated show. It is of course based on the manga of the same name and produced by the legendary Production IG, who will also be doing the Terminator series that is also releasing this year, which I think it might be a Netflix series. Watch for that in the future. But yes, I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with that. But speaking about Kaiju number 8 specifically, essentially the plot, without giving away too much, because I don't want to give away too much, is that there are kaiju, and it's a fairly commonplace thing, enough that they have a specific defense force that fights against these kaiju, and then they have also like this whole ancillary cleanup crews and everything that they've got it worked out, how when these monsters come, they beat them and then they clean them up, and it's just it's easy. It's like a normal thing. It's still very, very dangerous though. The series itself is a shonen style, and it very much feels like a mix between Fire Force and My Hero Academia, if you could kind of feel those types of things. The defense force and all the other ancillary departments, they're like governmental agencies, and so they have to come in and do this stuff, which is very supernatural for us, but kind of normal for them. Our main character, Kafka Hibino, he is an older guy. He's like in his late 30s, and he's kind of past his prime, and he literally works for one of the companies that just cleans up monster shit. Like, they just clean up dead bodies and like intestines, and it's like the grossest job ever. But you know what? He's really good at it, and he gets some satisfaction out of the fact that he's really good at it, and he's very much a team player, and everybody really thinks highly of him. Now, a young guy comes on board, and basically he has to take this guy under his wing, kind of show him the ropes. And this young guy explains, like, listen, I am only here because this is a stepping stone, because I want to use this to get to the defense force. And the defense force are the people who actually defeat the kaiju and use special weapons and all this cool gear, and he really wants to do that. Now, unbeknownst to the young guy, the older guy, Kafka, he really wanted to do that. In fact, he had made a promise to one of his younger childhood friends that he was going to do that, and he was just never, he kind of failed a few times and was never able to do it, and kind of let that dream die. And because this young guy is kind of saying, well, you know so much about this, why haven't you done it? He's like, well, I kind of gave up on my dream. The guy basically, the younger guy says, hey man, you shouldn't give up on your dream. And it's enough to kind of boost him, and they both kind of do it together, take the test together, and they have to go through all these trials. In the meantime, Kafka is infected with essentially this parasite that allows him to kind of transform into a monster, very werewolf-like. Inconveniently, the very type of monsters that the Defense Force kills on sight. So it creates a very interesting dynamic. It's very action-packed. It's got a lot of comedy. And I will say, while it has a ton of blood and gore and guts, especially from the monsters, I haven't yet noticed any kind of ecchi stuff or boob jokes or anything like that that might make it uncomfortable to watch with a younger viewer. So I'm gonna be honest, usually I err on the side of things that are kind of ecchi and has a little bit more of an adult content to it, but this show is so good, it stands alone by itself. And unlike Fire Force, that actually has a lot of ecchi things that are added that don't necessarily add to the plot, it's not unwelcome, it's just, it feels kind of random sometimes. This does not have that, at least not yet where I'm at, because it's only about at episode 6 or 7 right now, and the next one hasn't even aired yet. So my recommendation, definitely watch Kaiju number 8. You're gonna like it. I don't want to give away too much, but honestly, this is one of those ones I might recommend to somebody even if they've never watched any anime before, and we'll leave that little teaser where it is. So it's been great talking anime with you guys. I hope you're having a great summer, spending time with your family, going on vacations. Kanpai!